The rhythms of Bangladesh help break the tedium of hard physical labor. These young men are drilling a deep tube well in search of clean drinking water, and every bit of distraction helps. But these days, the wells are producing more than just clean water. They're also a source of the deadly metal, arsenic. This hand pump, which in Bangladesh is called a tube well, was actively promoted by international aid agencies and the government for the past 20 years. In a country where millions of people die due to waterborne diseases, this was seen as a permanent solution to the drinking water problem. Its water is bacteria-free, is odorless, colorless, and tastes normal. But now, in a perverse twist of fate, there is evidence to suggest that this water may contain arsenic, which, left unchecked, has the potential to lead to the slow death of this nation.
শরীরে হজম করছেন, শরীরের সঙ্গে মিশে গেছে বিভিন্ন টিস্যুতে, তারপরে আস্তে আস্তে সেইটাই চামড়ায় এসে দেখা দিচ্ছে। এটাকে আমরা বলি মেলানোসিস। এটা সারা শরীরে হয়, অথবা সারা শরীরে কালচে রং ছাড়াও ওই ফোঁটা ফোঁটা দাগ হয়। এটার শরীরে বুকের মধ্যে এই সাইডগুলোতে দেওয়া আছে, দেখেন ফোঁটা ফোঁটা দাগ আছে। এটাকে আমরা দুই ভাগে ভাগ করছি, মেলানোসিসটা ডিফিউজ হতে পারে অথবা
was one of the first people to identify arsenic poisoning in the villages of Bangladesh in 1996.
ঠিক আছে? এই মেয়েটার বয়স 10 বছর, বিউটি নাম, দেখতেও খুব সুন্দর। হাতের তালুটা কিরকম খসখসে হয়ে গেছে, তাই না? তাও ধুলে যেরকম হয়ে যায় শরীর, হাতের তালুটা দেখতে সিমিলার হয়েছে। আর্সেনিকযুক্ত পানি খেলে আর একটা পরিবর্তন যেটা হয় সেটাকে আমরা বলি ক্যারাটোসিস। ক্যারাটিন থেকে কথাটা আসছে, শরীরের মধ্যে ক্যারাটিন বলে একটা জিনিস আছে। সেইগুলো জমে 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 বালু জমে জমে যেমন যেমন চর পড়ে, এরকম চর পড়ার মতো হতে হতে শক্ত হয়ে গেছে।
Arsenic poisoning occurs slowly. Its first signs appear only after a decade of drinking contaminated water. In its early stages, it can be reversed by drinking clean water and eating good food. But in its later stages, it can lead to cancer and death.
আর্সেনিক 100 বছর আগে ডায়াগনোসিস করা হয়েছে যে আর্সেনিক দিয়ে ক্যান্সার হয় বেশি।
The village of Kutubpur in the district of Noakhali in southern Bangladesh is one of the worst affected areas. Dr. Roy and his survey team are visiting this village for the first time. This whole place that we're seeing here is now contaminated with arsenic.
It seems, yes. Actually, this contamination is in the underground water, this aquifers, and it is coming through the tube well. And the people who are using this tube well water for drinking purpose, they are having these arsenic problems.
Today they are taking samples of water from the tube wells, along with specimens of hair, nails and skin from those affected by arsenic for further analysis. These tests are vital. In tests conducted earlier in nearby villages, Dr. Roy and his team found levels of contamination up to 16 times more than the World Health Organization limit. In the village of Kutubpur too, Dr. Roy is pessimistic about what he will find.
You can see the melanosis was the.
Bibi Fatima is 11 years old and has not known life outside of this village.
So she's exhibiting the classic symptoms of
yes.
arsenic
This
poisoning.
we see the melanosis is there, clearly visible. And not only that, this keratosis you can mark. If you touch, that these points are becoming harder.
On the
If you just touch it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes.
Her 13-year-old sister, Amina, is also affected.
হ্যাঁ 7-8 বছর একটু দেখিয়ে দিকে
And so is Mum.
আপনার একটা ছবি নিতে হবে আমার। এখন কি পানি খান?
পানি টিউবওয়েল খাই টিউবওয়েল।
How badly are these people affected?
Yes, 3-4% are very badly affected. They have got these keratosis of the hand, keratosis of the soul, and the whole body is having this melanosis problem. So for this arsenic problem, this keratosis, it is a very advanced stage. After this stage, maybe we will get these other ulcers and all the other things.
এর ছবি নিছিলাম আমি, ছবি নিলাম।
But it's Muhammad Shahid Garribukler, 20 years old, who's the most seriously affected.
अरे शैतानी करते हैं जो हमारे साथ स्थिति पड़ गई है तो
আচ্ছা দেখি।
बोले कि अल्लाह दिशान की करे।
Is it the same case with other parts of the village as well?
দেখছি আর একজন আসলে ওই বাড়ির বিদেশ গেছে গা, তারপরে ওই ওই বাড়িতে আছে কিছু দুই একজন।
To determine how much arsenic there is in Garribukler's body, Dr. Roy has to send his hair, nail and skin samples to a properly equipped laboratory. The nearest one is 200 miles away in the Indian city of Calcutta. We decided to go along and find out Garribukler's prognosis. It was in the Indian state of West Bengal in the 1980s that the first discoveries of arsenic contamination in groundwater were made. One of the pioneers in the field is Dr. Deepak Bajracharya. He and his team of researchers predicted that the poisonous metal would spread across to neighboring Bangladesh as well.
In my opinion, Bangladesh's calamity is much severe than West Bengal. And more than 50 million people are at risk, more than 50 million people. And more than 65,000 square kilometer area we have found arsenic. Nail sample of yours.
Okay. In his state-of-the-art laboratory, the samples of Garribukler's hair, skin and nails have been prepared for testing.
Now your sample is coming. Now this is so high concentration that we have to dilute it 20 times to get it within the scale.
I see.
In my opinion, his hair, nail and skin contains huge amount of arsenic deposited. And highest is in the nail, then in the hair, then in the skin scale.
Dr. Chakraborty found that Garribukler has more than 35 times the safe limit in his nail samples, 30 times the limit in his hair, and while there is no safe skin limit, his specimen had more than 4 milligrams per kilo.
Huge amount of arsenic is this one.
What is his future?
Should I say ultimate is your possibility.
Much of Bangladesh is made up of the floodplains of 3 great rivers, the Ganges, the Brahmaputra and the Meghna. It's here that most of the arsenic contamination has been found. No one is sure as to why arsenic appears in such concentrations. There are also 2 competing theories on how arsenic gets into the water. According to one, people have caused the problem by sinking too many tube wells for irrigation. This has lowered the water table and introduced air into the aquifers. Oxygen in the air reacts with pyrite in the soil to produce arsenic. The other theory says that arsenic is produced naturally by chemical reactions in the soil. In some places, the underground water is already poisoned before a single tube well was sunk.
Would you blame the proliferation of tube wells in the early 70s as being one of the main causes of this?
Yes, I should not blame the tube wells, but the way we have done, maybe it was not right.
But that was the savior. That was what saved Bangladesh.
Yes, that is the question now there, you know. We want to die with arsenic or we want to die without food. There is one question. Another question is that you want to die with diarrhea or you want to die with arsenic.
This is a dilemma facing authorities. 20 years of hard campaigning has sold the idea that tube wells are the best source of safe drinking water. Now, the government, along with aid agencies such as UNICEF, are grappling with a problem they helped create.
This is a kind of a psychological trauma, if you like. You know, the tube well water symbolized for us life, because it provided drinking water that is very important as a basic need. But now, with the thinking that that same water maybe, like as you are suggesting, as poison, then this mind shift is a very difficult thing for us to accept. And this is also one of the reasons why some kind of a panic is being created amongst people that are using the tube well water, and we are very concerned about this. We don't want this symbol of life turn into death.
The only way to find out the extent of arsenic contamination is to test every one of the country's 3 million tube wells. So far, only 14,000 wells have been tested. S.M. Kabil is an engineer with the Department of Public Health and Engineering. He's carrying with him an arsenic test kit, one of only 500 in the country. Today, he's visiting the village of Kanjadanga, where there is growing frustration that the testing is not happening fast enough. The test is complicated, and it only tells you whether arsenic is in the water, not the amount of contamination. After 20 minutes, Mr. Kabil has a result.
জাস্ট যদি আমরা জানতে পারি যে এখানে আর্সেনিক আছে, যে ব্রোমাইড পেপারটা যদি কালার চেঞ্জ হয়, যেটি রেডিশ ইয়েলো যদি কালার হয়ে যায়, তাহলে আমরা বুঝতে পারবো যে এটাতে আর্সেনিক আছে।
Does your department have enough of these kits?
Chemicals problem. Now chemicals must be finished. ফিনিশ হওয়ার পথে, শেষ হওয়ার পথে, এখন আমাদের কেমিক্যাল সংগ্রহ করা দরকার। কিট আরও একটা হলে বা দুইটা হলে ভালো হয়।
In the capital Dhaka, though, the authorities are painting a different picture.
When we visited places like Khulna and Naukali, the villagers there were frustrated they did not have enough kits and enough chemicals to check and see whether their water is contaminated.
Well, they want everything to be solved overnight, but we can't do that. We need time to tackle the situation. That's the only thing.
But this
and
problem...
So we are concerned, the government is concerned, government is doing everything possible. So there is no lack of sincerity from either from the government side or from the department side.
The past few years has been one of really not believing in it. And partly also saying, okay, if we talk about arsenic, it may cause panic. So the uncertainty, number one, about whether it's going to cause greater panic, and number two, about some kind of disbelief, if you like.
To the point of it being ignored, perhaps?
Not ignored, but not taken as seriously as it deserves.
For women such as Helena, the slowness of the government's response has meant stigma and fear. Her husband thinks she's too weak to be a good wife. and would prefer to be married to someone else.
সবাই মনে করতো যে ওই ওষুধ খাতে খাতে এরকম চেহারা মনে হচ্ছে এরকমভাবে খারাপ হয়ে গেছে, কী হয়েছে সবাই চিন্তা করতো, কেউ কিছু বুঝতে পারতো না। আর স্বামী শুধু রাগ করে, মানে সে তো বলে যে নেও বাঁচবে না, কী হয়েছে বাদ দাও, তাড়ায় দাও, খেদায় দাও, বেরোয় দাও, বিভিন্ন। তাহলে সে আমার জন্য কোনো চেষ্টাও করে না কোনো সময়। মোটামুটি সে মনে করে যে এখন যদি যায় এখন ভালো।
It's a lament that can be avoided. Helena knows she must boil her drinking water, but she also knows that the Bangladesh authorities have been slow to respond to the problem, and help for her may come too late.
আমার মনে হয় যে যদি একটু বাইরে ইন্ডিয়া না যেতে পারতাম হয়তো ভালো হয়ে যেতাম, এই বুঝি। তাছাড়া ভাবি যে এরকমভাবে থাকলে হয়তো আর
There are other ways of getting clean water for Helena, but so far the government has done little to encourage the building of rainwater tanks like this one. This is a country that has no real shortage of water. It receives more than 6 feet of rainfall a year, almost all of which is wasted or bacteria-ridden. For Garribukler, the future is not bright.
কাজ করতে চাই, এখনো কাজ শিখতে চাই, কাজ শিখে তারপরে দেখা যাক কী করে।
কিন্তু তোমার শরীর যে খারাপ এটা তুমি কোনো চিন্তা করো না?
চিন্তা করে আমার ডাক্তার কাছে যাইলে বলে যে ওষুধ নেই এটা।
Just like the black spots that spread over a victim's body, the tube wells of Bangladesh have become a scourge that cannot be washed away. In a country that has been victim to more than its fair share of natural disasters, this is yet another calamity that cannot be ignored. Otherwise, we may witness the slow death of the nation.